want to think that I was partying all the time. I was actually a very disciplined kid, the same kid who would save the candies, in a lockbox for the whole year and have one candy a day. It was also pretty balanced about his partying. I wouldn't party, every day. I'd party once a week, and I wouldn't party with people who weren't going to do something. If they're just going to sit on their ass and get stoned, I wouldn't do it. You're going to climb a mountain or play music or go skinny dipping, I'd do it. I'd say, but I wouldn't do it otherwise.
I got you.
So it was kind of a...
You had guidelines. There were guidelines involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where were we?
Well, you say... so you basically woke up one day and said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right. I decided that they were doing this huge course where they're bringing in thousands and thousands of people to do these advanced meditation practices that would bring you to very high states of consciousness.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I was starting to have these really great experiences. The first couple of years I meditated, it was kind of hard to sit there, and the thoughts would come, and I'm going, no, I should be doing my homework, I should be doing this isn't working, why the hell am I spending time this way? I don't feel anything, I don't feel like I'm becoming enlightened or clearer or happier or anything. Right. But as time went on, I started to get, there's something to this. So I wanted to go down that rabbit hole a little further, so I said, okay, I'm young. I got to do it now. Right. I quit in like 82, 83. It was beginning of late 82. And I went to go take one of these courses where they were charging like $200 a month, room and board, to meditate your butt off.
Right.
And I did that for about 6 months.
Did your butt
just until I couldn't stand it anymore. I mean, it was really fantastic on some level. It's really hard to talk to people who may not meditate about meditation and what it's all about, because it's a very, you can use the words of it. The experiences I've had, not all the time, but some of the time, are just higher than any high that I have doing anything else. And you can imagine everything else that someone could do to get high or have a peak experience. So I have, on a regular basis, especially the less work I do and the more I'm on vacation or out of the city, where it seems to be more conducive to meditation, I have really profound experiences after 32 years of this. So anyway, that's not the point of this conversation today. But I wanted to delve in. It was very intensive, lots of meditation, 2 times in the morning, 2 times in the evening or afternoon, and very advanced practices.
So what, you were just living off your savings from when you made all your money working?
It's $200 a month. What's to live off of? Yep. I mean, anyway.
Okay.
It wasn't a whole lot of money. It was being subsidized, or they just were cover your costs. We bought this college for $1 million. There's not a lot of expenses here. We've got 2,000 or 3,000 people here. The mortgage isn't really heavy, and we've repaired everything. It was just, at that point, it wasn't a big deal for them to house a ton of people.
Wow.
It's still going on today, by the way. There's still a community there, and they do their thing, and there's still a deep belief that the more people meditate, the more it calms everybody's consciousness, because we're all connected as one big thing.
Okay.
Like we're like one big organism or something weird. So I don't know about that, but I think there is some kind of a group consciousness, because I trade the stock market, and I just kind of watch the way I consider it a barometer of where everybody's at any one time.
Right.
Everybody freaks out, the market goes down. It just, and it feels like there's, especially with the internet and everything, everybody's kind of, at the same level of hopefulness or freaked outness at any one point.
Now, there aren't any laws about insider meditation, are there?
Insider meditation?
Yeah,
No.
This guy's meditating. He knows something we don't know. And then next you know, the FCC's checking you out or something, or Securities Exchange. All right, you got to there's a cease and desist order. You can't meditate anymore. You're cheating.
Well, anyway, I had enough of it at some point. I was like, okay, this is good. I will do this. It's a part of things I do, but, I don't want to do this all day long. So I left after 6 months of that, and I actually ended up in Denver working for Air Products. And, God, I don't know why I didn't go back to Pritchard, but I didn't. Oh, you know what? I did go back to Pritchard, the J.C. Pritchard Company in Kansas City. I went back there, and I was having health problems.
Oh, really?
I had real serious blood sugar problems, and I quit. And I went to live with my folks in Denver while I kind of figured out what I do. And I could tell you the medical doctors were hell.
Yeah.
They were the worst. They were like, well, your blood sugar drops. Why don't you eat a candy bar?
Oh, come on. That's what they came up with.
Yeah, I mean, anyone knows now, if your blood sugar is dropping, you're having hypoglycemic, not,
Yeah.
Diabetes, but overreaction to sugar, the last thing you want to do is put a candy bar into the equation.
Yeah.
At that time, a carrot would be too sweet for me. It'd send me into a tizzy. A carrot
Oh, really?
too sweet. Yeah.
Why? Because you like completely changed your diet and all.
I don't know what the hell it was, but I was having a lot of issues with blood sugar. And
So what, bark?
what did you eat?
Yeah, what did you eat?
Well, I would eat brown rice and I could eat vegetables, I could eat meat. Although I was vegetarian at this time, I went back to eating meat because I was just like, hey, man, screw it. I'm having so much trouble, I can't even work. I'm going to eat meat.
I knew you'd be a rebel in that somehow.
Yeah, well, I don't have rules like people.
Okay, so you went back to those guys. You found out you had these health problems. They gave you bad advice, and then what'd you do?
Well, I left. I went to do my own recovery in Denver in my folks' house. I think that's when I really started getting into my personal health, and I said, okay, there's things that I'm going to need to know for the rest of my life. I'm going to have to be paying taxes if I'm earning money in America, and I haven't figured out a way to avoid it. But I dug in. I learned all about that when I got, started paying taxes.
Right.
And just like that, I dug in on, okay, there's all these books on health, on herbs, on, healthy eating, vegetarian eating, all this stuff.
Right.
And I got very smart on it. And I started, playing with diets and playing with routines for myself. And over about 3 months, 6 months, I really cured myself of the hypoglycemicness.
Really?
Like, if you're hypoglycemic, you got to eat a little meal constantly, every 6 a day, little meals, and no sugar.
Instead of like 3 big ones or whatever.
Right. I can miss eating a day or two and eat sugar the whole time and not have issues with it. Right now, I'm sitting here eating chocolate-covered ginger candy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
And I haven't had, did I have breakfast? I think I had a little snack just as I left. So I'm really running on nothing and just kind of a sugar thing. So this is the kind of thing you don't do as a hypoglycemic, but at this point I don't have the issues that I had before.
Right.
And I also was thinking at that time, what kind of a business do I start? But at some point I just had to get a job, and I actually couldn't find a job, so I just said, hell, I'm going to take any job. I started digging ditches at a construction site.
Really?
I just said, hell, I'm just going to do work. I'm just going to get money. I'm just going to start moving my body. Right. And when I interviewed the Stearns Catalytic, which is a local engineering company, I went in. I was very motivated because 3 weeks of digging ditches, you're like so sick of it. You're like going, screw this. And I said, look, I know you're interviewing for this job, and I know I'm the perfect guy for this job, and I want you to give me the offer. And it's Friday. I really want it by Monday. I mean, I don't know how. I was very, forceful. They gave me the job offer on Monday, and I started on Tuesday. And
oh wow. And did you go in the interview with like a hard hat and a shovel in your hand?
No, but I was just like, look, you can screw around looking for a long time and interviewing people all around the country with a specialized knowledge. I am local. I'm a good deal. Hire me. And I worked there for a couple of years until the oil price, believe it or not, OPEC was falling apart and the barrel was dropping from $30 a barrel to $10.
Well, this is like getting towards the end of the 80s then, right?
85.
Oh, really? Middle 80s. Okay.
Yeah, middle 80s, the barrel just collapsed. And nobody was doing any engineering work in the oil and gas refinery industry. Nobody could justify, improving anything or efficiencies at $10 a barrel.
Oh, yeah.
And I was I was not to be laid off. There were 3 layoffs. And the reason I was not to be laid off was because they had a policy at Air Products that if you came up with a patent idea, you got $100.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's just an idea.
Okay,
and
how many ideas did you come up with?
Well, I created one on a regular basis because it was my lunch money.
What kind of ideas?
Just
layman terms, so our listeners can understand.
Well, I remember there was one thing where you have like a distillation column. I don't know if this is going to be easy, but it was integrating the distillation columns in such a way that instead of using heat and cooling for each column separately, it was kind of like integrating the heat and cooling of one, if the temperatures are just right, kind of integrating it with another column that you needed temperatures in the opposite way, so that we would kind of cross heat or cool. Actually, I was using compressors for that. It's been a long time, guys.
Yeah, I think you just talked over the head of almost everybody listening.
Just about all of our listeners, yeah. But that's good.
Sorry about that. Anyway, well, it was very technical, but we came up with stuff. And what happened is that every time a newsletter came out, they would just publicize all the new patent ideas.
Right.
And so I was in the newsletter for this 20,000 people company every freaking quarter, and cool. People would be walking down the hall that I didn't know because I never interacted with them, but they were clearly upper management. They said, "Hi, Mr. Reed, how you doing? Good work."
Real. So you were who's who there?
I was just trying to get lunch money, man.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
and that kept you insulated from being laid off of your job.
Right. I actually quit.
Wow.
So how long did that go on?
Oh, there was like 3 months, maybe 6 months of layoffs, and finally I just said, I bought a guitar, I moved to Hollywood, and I started going to the Musicians Institute for a year, which is a very intensive guitar school.
Really? So you really started picking up on your chops?
Yeah, I re-picked up the guitar. What happened was I got this thought in my mind. I was 29 years old, and I said, well, I am here, and what the hell am I doing with my life? And I started reading a New Age book by a lady called Shakti Gawain, who clearly was not, she was some Jewish lady from New York City who changed her name clearly, but she's kind of very spiritual. And she said, you can visualize anything and create what you want. You can make your life. So I was like, okay, that sounds great. I'll visualize, I'm really rich and all that stuff. But I started to think, what do I really want? And I remembered my guitar playing. I said, screw it, man. I want to be a rock star. If this really works, if my mind is so freaking powerful, and I've been meditating, making my mind more powerful from meditation, I'm going to go and live out my dreams. Oh, my God. You're reminding me of so much crazy crap. I knew this guy. I knew this geologist in Denver at the TM Center. He was dating this woman who was a psychic.
Oh, yeah.
And she, I tested her out. I said, okay, here's a page of symbols for the stock market. Point out one that's going to do well. And she said, well, this one right here, CXRL. I said, I looked it up the next day, I found out, broker called me, cold called me, said, buy this stock. I said, screw it. Give me CXRL. He said, well, what do they do? I asked. He said, well, they make optic fibers for phone lines.
Oh, really?
And I said, well, hell, I'll open an account. It was 16 cents a share. I said, I'll buy that. And so this guy's like, that's not what I'm pushing today.
Yeah, right.
So 6 months in a day, I call up. It's at 64 cents. I said, sell me out. And so I told my friend, I said, look, you're a geologist. This psychic is good. And I said, okay, what should we get into right now? And she said, well, I said the OEX 100, which is the S&P 100. It's an index. And she said, well, it'll be at one. So I said, where's it going to be in December? She says, 160. It's July. It's like, oh, my God. It's never moved. It's at 100. It'll never move to 160. Never happened. She's not good. Christmas time comes along. Turns out it's hitting 160. And I'm freaking out. Wow. I'm going, my God, if I had bought options on this, I would have made 60 times my money.
Holy cow.
So we started trading with this woman's advice. She said Disney, something with Disney, Sarah Lee, something with Sarah Lee. And I'm making a mint. And this guy's a geologist. And she has looked at the geology maps he has and said, here's where oil is. So we're gonna make a bunch of money in the stock market, and we're gonna wildcat a well.
What amazes me is that all of these career paths are so connected. They're all so similar.
Yeah. I'm going to get sick listening to myself. Anyway, so I'll end this thing. Okay, I'll tie it up a little bit. So
that's cool. Take your time.
I'm making a ton of money. I really am. I'm just speeding up.
Yeah.
And they're trading too, but I'm not keeping in touch with them so much. They're saying these things. I'm just running with them. I get a hold of them 3 weeks later, at some point early, after the Christmas time when the stock market went up, I started making all this money. And I'm
Right.
pacing right towards the money, $100,000 that we can wildcat this thing. We'll just live off the oil proceeds for the rest of our lives, no more work. And I'm going to go to Hollywood